Great. So I'm here with Joe and Ben. We're here just to talk about what's coming up within the Asian market and the effects of the recent pandemic on land-based gaming, where the market's going to go, and what we look to expect in the next 6 to 12 months. So Joe and Ben, we spoke earlier today. We had a couple of ideas in regards to what we should go into and what we believe the market's going to look like. Recent events have had a massive effect on the Asian land-based market, namely Macau, Philippines, and a number of markets who have recently come out into the industry. But in your opinion, I'd just love to get an overview of what's happening in Asia and where we see it going, what the effects have truly been, what happens now, really and truly. So Ben, over to you. Just a bit of overview on you and what's happening out there.
Certainly. So in terms of gaming in Asia, Macau shut down their casinos in the early part of January, I believe. February, and then reopened after 15 days. So they shut down on the 5th of February and reopened on the 20th of February. So they were one of the earliest to close and reopen compared to the rest of the region. Since then, there has been no recovery. Things have been very, very slow insofar as foot traffic is concerned and the resulting gross gaming revenue.
Okay, so again, major effects from the recent pandemic, and we know that obviously again the market has been growing of late, so it has shut down. But where does it go next? When we spoke earlier today, we spoke about roadblocks and U-turns within the sector, how the future of potential proxy gaming on the land base could secure these markets in times of pandemic. And also another topic we went into a while back was the idea that the online does contribute to, let's say, land-based operations. How do we see that coming out of this pandemic? How do we see it affecting, places like Macau, Sunakville, obviously, which has done a U-turn? Do we anticipate any changes in regulation in those regions?
So I'll address two countries, and I'll leave the rest to Joe. So insofar as Macau is concerned, we have been very heavily dependent upon mainland China for the bulk of our gaming revenue. And we estimate probably something close to 80 to 90% of our gaming revenue comes out of China. Now, we have had in the past other forms of gaming, such as proxy gaming, phone betting. However, as a result of probably suggestions emanating out of China, Macau had moved to ban all form of online as well as phone and proxy betting. And that industry or that segment of the industry has actually moved to Manila as well as other parts of Asia, particularly Cambodia and Vietnam. Now, because we are so heavily dependent on the China market, looking at the future post-pandemic, we are not likely to see a reintroduction of those segments of the market, contrary to what some other commentators and observers have been suggesting, purely and simply because online gaming in any form is anathema to the mainland Chinese authorities. And, we have seen how they have cracked down in Cambodia, particularly Sihanoukville, and indirect actions against the same industry in the Philippines. Now, post-pandemic, we do predict that a recovery will occur, slow as it may be, but it will occur. The size of the recovery and speed of the recovery totally dependent upon what mainland China will let us have. Bear no doubt that if they choose to, we could have 2019 level sometime by the end of this year. But having said that, with the precautions in place, with the constraints in place, we see a recovery to 2019 level more likely by sometime in the middle of next year.
I see.
Now, in terms of Cambodia, moving on to Cambodia, you mentioned Sihanoukville. So igaming did a study. We were commissioned to do a study into the gaming market in Sihanoukville by a publicly listed company in Hong Kong. And what we found in our study, without divulging too many confidential details, is that probably somewhere in the vicinity of about 80% of the gaming revenue of the land-based casinos in Sihanoukville derived from the online space itself, i.e., they were generating revenue from customers out of China. But not only that, the customers that were physically playing in the casinos in Sihanoukville were staff and entrepreneurs that lived off the online gaming industry. These were the physical customers that were going to the casinos day in, day out. They were online staff, online managers, online bosses. And then on top of that, they were construction workers building the buildings that house all these online people. And then you had the SMEs, the entrepreneurs who followed them out. They were running the karaoke, they were running the restaurants, they were running the dormitories that all looked after and catered to the online industry. So the Cambodian government, under pressure from China, suspended or prohibited the continuation of online gaming in December last year, and basically the rest is history. Without the online space, there was no sustainable land-based business in Sihanoukville.
But as you said, so the land base was propped up by those people who are doing business on the online. Now, when we're looking at the industry on a whole, we understand the U-turn was made over there. But I just want to switch over to you for a second, Joe. We spoke also earlier about, we know that there's been a lot of turmoil in the recent months and also years. And we spoke also about proxy, which is quite interesting because we understand that, okay, this market was shut down. The online industry was let's say, creating, as you said, somewhat of a racket. But we do have the doorway through proxy, which I believe is what's happening now in parts of Manila. And that's quite an interesting concept where the land base gets support through virtual presence. And how is that moving along in Manila?
Well, here in the Philippines, the land-based industry is not as reliant on the Chinese market as Macau. We have quite a large local industry, local play. Now, a number of properties have had proxy betting for a number of years. It's not something new here. I'd say proxy betting has been running here for at least 10 years. What we want to look at is where is the industry going over the next year, post-COVID, when we reopen for business here in the Philippines, not only Philippines, but across Asia. What can casinos do to get people back in the door? How can they work with online companies? Can we bring online content onto the casino floor and provide safe areas on the casino floor? All this is a matter of regulation, but the two industries can work hand in hand to create a better environment moving forward. The land-based can learn a lot from online. And I think we spoke about it earlier. The land-based properties would probably love to go online.
Yeah, exactly. This is what we were saying earlier. Sorry. Go on.
they future-proof themselves by doing that against future pandemics, or we still don't know where this one's going yet.
But yeah, this is the next thing. So the doors have not yet opened, and I think even when the casinos come back online, when the land-based operators open their door, who's to say that the airlines are ready to bring the players, that the people have yet to feel safe again to walk into a casino? And we spoke about a couple of avenues they can take. One interesting avenue was using proxy, but within the venue. So a company could use, let's say, its actual own physical venue to separate the play and the player. Obviously, that makes disinfecting the panels easier. It can keep the individual customer in a different area. There are a number of brands using this approach, but do you think, Ben, maybe this one for you, that it would spread across, let's say, Macau and other areas of Southeast Asia?
Well, absolutely. Social distancing is the new norm. So we can expect more iterations of that concept. So in Macau, even before the DICJ reopened the casino and imposed social distancing, we had suggested, or I had suggested about 3 weeks before they did so in a TV interview in Macau, that they actually separated the gaming tables more. But that in an essence is only a short-term solution, Oliver. The problem is with the game itself. It is a dinosaur, just like airlines, where everything's cramped in. The tables themselves, if you think about it, the common denominators are the playing cards, but more importantly, the chips. These are potential conduits for the pathogen. And so really, you got to look at, well, how do we minimize the contacts and the common points between people? So, and it comes back to the earlier point you made with, the innovation. And we already have innovation in the form of live dealer electronic gaming terminals, right? What we call stadium arenas, a concept that was pioneered in Australia, but it's now very, very popular in Asia. So we'll probably see a continuation and an expansion of that form of game. Now, however, that caters mainly to the mass. It does not give the touchy-feely experience that the VIPs would like. And that's where the bulk of the money is, unfortunately. And so, we may see the introduction of, more importantly, chipless gaming, i.e. you have an electronic wallet, you swap at the table, and basically there is no contact with chips of any kind. The touching the cards optional, but again, that's up to individual players. So you can, very quickly, move to incorporate new digital technology to enable that social distancing that is going to be with us for quite a while yet.
So based on that, and in your opinion, both Joe and Ben, what time frame are we looking at? Obviously, given the global situation, it does feel like this pandemic is not coming to an end, but it is, let's say, in some regions improving. Do we see casinos adopting this in the next 3 to 6 months? And where do we expect to see this first?
Well, adoption of technology needs to be immediate. It cannot wait 3 to 6 months. The technology is available. If we look at things like visual AI for checking on masks, checking if a machine's been cleaned, checking for clusters of people, how many people are at the table. These types of products are available today. The stadium that Ben talked about is something that's available today. Also, if you want to run proxy in a casino, you instead of running over the internet, you run it over the intranet. Sports betting, you can run it on mobile devices or telephone betting. There are ways. Regulators have come up with their guidelines. We now need to find, let's call it the technology or the digital means on how to implement those guidelines.
I agree with Joe. I mean, the technology is already with us. I mean, when I talk about digital wallet, I mean, e-wallets, Apple Pay, Alipay, we already have them all. It's just that the VIP players, the players may be hesitant in using their own personal e-wallets to go and gamble in the casino because all that is traceable, right? And anonymity is a very treasured commodity. So I think it would not be too much of a stretch for somebody to come along and basically bring in a generic casino-centric e-wallet, whereby a player will go to a casino, they cash in a certain amount of buy-in, and they get issued with a device that contains their buy-in, and they use that device to go and gamble, and it's not necessarily linked to themselves. They can pass the device to somebody else, and again, it preserves that level of buffer between who they are, where they come from, and what's happening at the table. But the technology is already here. It's a matter of how quickly the casinos will allow that. And I think that given the paucity of gaming revenue and what's likely to be a desert for the next 12 months, it will behoove them to actually encourage vendors to come in and provide that technology as quickly as possible.
Perfect. Ben, I thank you for that. We're actually running out of time, but I really wanted to go on with this one. What I would say is that we're definitely going to see major changes within the industry and land-based operations over the next 6 months. I thank you both, Ben and Joe, for your time. I look forward to having this conversation again with you. And now I'm going to send us back to Jess. Thank you again, guys. Have a good day.
Thank you, Oliver.
Thank you.